Real world news here, bringing you the latest and recent events such as political and cultural events. To start us off, first we have to talk about politics, and to help us with that is Braden.
Thank you, Vaughn. And tonight we can confirm that all 52 hostages taken captive for 444 days are now returned safe and were met by former President Jimmy Carter. The overthrow of Mohammad Reza Shah Pahlavi of Iran by an Islamic revolutionary government earlier in the year had led to a steeply deterioration of Iran and U.S. relations. Many of the hostages were brutally tortured, and many mock executions took place just for amusement of the Iranians. The release of the hostages came after our President Ronald Reagan was sworn in as 40th President of the United States. Also today, we bring the light upon the impeachment of President Bill Clinton. After years of illicit sex intercourse with an unpaid intern, Monica Lewinsky, August 6th, Mrs. Lewinsky testified against President Clinton. Around August 16th, President Clinton testified before Congress, where he said his famous line, "I did not have sexual relations with that woman." The president was brought up on two charges: obstruction of justice and lying under oath. He is the second president to be impeached in history. Now here's Vaughn with the close 2000 election.
With the passing of the 2000 election, let's take a look back of how it all went down. The candidates being Al Gore for the Democratic Party and George Bush for the Republicans. This election was the closest since 1876. Bush had 271 electoral votes to Gore's 265. This was an interesting election due to the fact that Gore won D.C., although none of the electors voted. Also, another oddity about this election was that Gore had won the popular vote, but still had lost. Next, we have our miscellaneous segment of the show with Florence and Tess.
Tess and Florence here with news on the terrorist bombing in Oklahoma City on April 19, 1995. A man by the name of Tim McVeigh had driven a truck packed with illegal explosives, which killed 168 people. Tim McVeigh was convicted with 161 life sentences, which eventually led to his execution. His partner, Terry Nichols, received a life sentence. The explosion killed 168 people, including 19 children. It also injured 650 people and damaged more than 300 buildings. Now to Florence with news on the Chernobyl disaster.
26, 1986, the Chernobyl disaster happened. The Chernobyl disaster was when the Chernobyl nuclear plant in Ukraine caused 28 high-exposed reactor staff and emergency workers to die from radiation and thermal burns within 4 months of the accident. The accident happened due to reactor design flaws and improper safety tests. Since this disaster, Ukraine wouldn't be compatible for human life for 20,000 years. Chernobyl is now considered a...
Thanks, guys. Now it's time to look back on the 1988 World Series, Dodgers versus the Athletics. Looking back on some highlights, in Game 1, Kirk Gibson hit a historical home run on a 3-2 count with 2 outs, hit one to right field off his Dennis Eckersley. Here's an interview with him right now. Thanks, Vaughn. Looking back on that October 15th, 1988, on that home run, we were down 3-4, and I was really just trying to put the team in the lead. Start out the World Series in a good spot. We're at home. And, I really worked the count. I think I was down 0-1 and then 1-1, and I worked it to a 3-2 count. Fouled like a bunch of pitches off. It was like 11 pitch at bat, and I saw one that I liked on the inside part of the plate, and I just drilled it. Thinking about what I was doing on the base, I wasn't thinking. I was just pumped. The adrenaline was rushing. I was just doing whatever I could, and I came through, and teammates were there, and I did what I thought was natural. I gave a little pumpage around the second base and did what I thought was best. So in the 1980 Olympics, a coach by the name of Herb Brooks had put together a group of scrappy college students who had played together for less than a few months to try to beat the best professional hockey team in the world that had been playing for 15 plus years. The final score was 4-2, and it gave a lot of hope to the people of the U.S. during the middle of the Cold War. Here's a live look into the last minute of the game.
PlayStation 2, now $499.95.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
MTV was first launched on August 1st, 1981. The birth of music television caused a wave of new and exciting music for people to listen and watch their favorite artists and bands. This also had a negative effect on the radio due to the fact that now people can not only listen but watch their favorite music in a whole new way like never before. In MTV's early days, they were just airing basic music videos that were introduced by video jockeys and provided free for them by record companies. As time went on, the channel was creating a lot of money, which was invested by making better music videos. By the late 1980s and early 1990s, they started airing TV shows like Beavis and Butthead, which was one of the most popular. Now let's Sony PlayStation was a gaming console made by Sony Computer Entertainment. It was released in Japan on December 3rd, 1994, and was released in North America on September 9th, 1995. The sale price for the first PlayStation ever made was $299. The PlayStation sold an unheard of 100,000 units in the first weekend and 1 million units within the first 6 months.